So today we're going to be taking a look at some funky shapes that are a little different in size, or I should say, in the way that their edges are made, than in the shapes we've seen previously. We've looked at a lot of geometric shapes, round shapes, and squares, and circles, and triangles, and that sort of thing. Now we're going to be looking at some unique, strange, odd, and funky shapes. So we call these organic shapes very often. When the shapes are unique and do things that are different and a little strange, we often call those organic shapes. So, shapes that have a unique structure or don't have a lot of structure in the way their edges are made, we call those organic shapes, like birds and plants, rocks, anything you think of in nature, trees. When a blob of paint hits the canvas, generally it makes an organic shape. And so when we look at the differences in them, on the left here, this wall drawing by Lewitt has lots of straight lines. Um, these are not shapes you're going to see in nature. These are rectangles and triangles. And again, they have very precise edges. If when those edges meet, they make a very straight line. Over here, though, on Matisse's painting, we've got very organic shapes. These look like leaves, little squiggly lines. Those are organic shapes. Look like they could occur in nature, maybe. These don't work very well. We'll try. So, where did these funky shapes come from? They're really wild. You're right. They're not like plain geometric shapes, which are always the same. These are called organic shapes. They're from nature, my imagination, or sometimes they just happen like a splatter of paint. When you look out your window or go for a walk outside, you might see all kinds of organic shapes. Those clouds up in the sky and the leaves on the tree, those are organic shapes. Often, artists become inspired by nature and then put those shapes into their artwork. Can you find the organic shapes inspired by the nature in these works of art? Again, this is Matisse painting, and we can tell that these look like plant or tree leaves of some kind. When we look at this painting by Vincent van Gogh, there are all kinds of cool wallpaper, flowers in the wallpaper behind him. Those are organic shapes. The beard itself is a really cool, big organic shape. So we're going to take a look at the idea of making mosaics with our last make day. And a mosaic is where you make a work of art by assembling little tiny shapes that when you step back, they kind of blend together to look like a larger shape. And so you may have seen shaped tiles put together on a wall or a floor. This is mosaic art technique, and it's often used by artists using tiles or sometimes other hard materials to make their work of art. And so, if you look, each of the little, it might look like a painting, but each of the little areas of color here are another tile. And when you put them all together, and we're going to talk about our attendance question artist here in a moment, and we're going to look at how he did the same sort of thing. But when you see all these little squares of color at a distance, they look like it's just shadowing, and you don't see all those little individual squares. It looks like one area of color. Those mosaics, those little broken down pieces of color, if you will, that when When assembled correctly, they blend together to make the image. Traditional mosaics use mostly square and geometric pieces. Here are two pieces of mosaics from a long time ago. The tiles are quadrilateral, squares, and rectangles. Quadrilateral and at four sides. Here's a traditional mosaic of a woman. Look closely. You can see it's made of all these little square tiles. All these little squares. Another traditional mosaic that uses those geometric tiles. We can see how if you come in close, it's all geometric tiles. This is where we're going to stop and do our attendance question of the day. And the answer today is Chuck Close. And Chuck Close makes art that, let's see, that is often very reminiscent of those mosaic tiles. Chuck Close was born Charles Thomas Close. He's an American painter, an artist, and a photographer. He makes these very large, massive scale photorealist portraits. He often does portraits of himself or friends, and he displays these internationally. When you go to a Chuck Close exhibit, you'll see works of art much like this one of the baby here. All of his works are these little broken squares of color that he makes. Now, his aren't little hard ceramic tiles, but he does the same sort of thing. He breaks the little space up into these little squares. He then applies color to those little squares, and it might look kind of random, but if you squint, that baby almost becomes photorealistic. It almost becomes like a photograph. Very similar to the way the leg was on that child in the mosaic we looked at just a moment ago. So, again, today's attendance question answer is Chuck Close. Chuck Close. I'm going to give you a second to write that down. Write down Chuck Close. He is our attendance question answer. And this is what he looks like. That's a self-portrait of Chuck. And if we could get really close to it, we'd see that all these little dots of light color are really squares. And all of these things are little squares. There's all kinds of little squares. Really close if we got to zoom in on that. Chuck Close. All right, let's go on and finish up our module, and we'll talk about our make day. So we're talking about those quadrilateral shapes, those things like those squares, but what about irregular shapes? Sometimes those mosaic tiles have irregular shapes. They might have funky angles and sides that are equal or not equal. If they're equal, we'll often call those, and the angles are the same, we'll call those regular shapes. But when the angles and the sides are not equal, man, it makes some irregular shapes like that one, this one. So regular or irregular. So let's look at some examples. Well, if this is a regular triangle, well, this would be an irregular triangle, they're saying. If this is a regular quadrilateral square, this is an irregular quadrilateral square, quadrilateral shape. We're used to seeing this type of pentagon, not this. It still has five sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we're not, that's irregular. That's not what we're used to seeing when we see those types of shapes. Okay, so we are going to talk about these little bits in the make day. We're not going to talk about them right now. When you do your make day, you're going to have options again to use like the Sketchpad 5.1 or the Chrome Canvas. Or if you've got little bits of color paper, you can create your mosaic using little bits of colored paper. Mosaics can have organic shapes on them too. This mosaic is made mostly out of square and geometric tiles, but they create an organic shape, flowers, stems, and leaves. What other shapes do you see? Oh, well, there's some irregular shapes going on there too. So, looking at the art and design, some people design mosaics for fun or to decorate houses or buildings. Designers may take inspiration from art and apply it to their work. Their work is usually utilitarian. And I hate that they use the word utilitarian, which means you can use it in some way. I like to call it functional art, which means it provides some type of function. And sometimes mosaic works of art are also functional. For instance, if you have a bowl that has some type or plate that has some type of mosaic done on it, it could be both a useful functional bowl as well as a work of art. Artists and designers often create mosaics as public art for everyone to enjoy. Artists sometimes create mosaics in public places to make other people think or to honor a person or an event. These types of works aren't functional or utilitarian. So when you think about cartoons, you probably think about your favorite TV show or movie. I love cartoons. I love the one about the aardvark, or the one about the turtles, and sorry, Aiko. In art, cartoon can have a different meaning. These cartoons are more like what you see in coloring books. They are simple outlines that helps the artist plan and create mosaics. So when artists create a cartoon drawing, what they're really talking about is that outline drawing, and we've talked about them as contour line drawings, where you're drawing the outside of an object. And that's the first way you'll start and when we talk about making our mosaics for our make day. So we're going to take a look. First of all, you're going to gather your tiles. And so when you come to your make day, you're going to want to have some little, if you're going to want to make a regular mosaic, you're going to have little squares of tiles ready to go. You're going to want to plan out. You're going to draw your cartoon and sort of plan out where all those tiles are going to go. Then you want to start to put the mosaics into place, put those tiles sort of in those spaces where they belong. Now, in a regular mosaic, you would then come back in and add what they call grout. And grout is a way to fill in those spaces in between the tiles. Because we're not going to be making ours out of traditional tiles, we're not going to be using grout. So, what we're going to do is you can either bring different colors of construction paper or tissue paper that you've cut into little squares or even little circles for that matter. You don't have to use squares, but you can bring those already cut up, and then we'll work on how you can make your cartoon, your pattern for your mosaic. We'll also look at how you can create that mosaic in Sketchpad or Chrome Canvas. All right, guys, I look forward to seeing you on the Make Day where we're going to make a really cool mosaic. I can't wait. I hope you're excited too. Oh, one last thing. I forgot to tell you. There's another way you can do your art. And that way, the other way is you can come, if you have Minecraft Education Edition loaded up on your computer, you can come to my class on the Make Day. If you come to the right at 1 o'clock on the Make Day, or there's there right after, you can join the Minecraft classroom if you would rather do your Make Day in Minecraft. And I will, if you want to do it that way, you can come with your Education Edition already loaded. Now, if you don't already have it loaded, you won't be able to participate. You won't be able to load it and participate in the same day. You need to have it already loaded and ready to go. But if you would like to, you can come directly into this space and create your mosaic here. And so this is my art classroom world. Here we've got shapes. You can make some cool art related to shape over here. I've made a triangle and a square, and Uh, we've got organic trees, but I made a geometric tree here. Seventh and eighth graders are making Andy Warhol related art. You can make a sculpture out of line if you want to in the line area, or you could draw something on the ground in the line area. You can go over to the color area and do some cool stuff. This is probably where you'll do your mosaics because you're going to use color tile to create mosaics in that space if you'd like to come and make art in the Minecraft world. All right, I look forward to seeing you on the Make Day. Have a great day.